Which rule sounds stupid, but actually makes a lot of sense. During community service, we would have to go up to this small mountain town in a convoy behind our professor. He would have one of us drive and the passenger would have a walkie-talkie. He would do check-ins every half hour. You couldn't pass him in the convoy, and he would announce every single time a car was coming from the other direction while on the mountain. It seemed really stupid at first, but when we were heading back down, we realized just how small the road was and how fast some of these other drivers were going. He was literally putting his car and pretty much his life in front of us to make sure if anyone would get hit head on or roll off the side of the mountain it would be him and not us. Crossing your arms and feet on a water slide. I decided last summer to hold my nose while going down the slide, and figured I'm a grown butt man, I'll hold my nose if I want to. I bet I looked real cool punching myself in the eye. Once on one of those super tall ones where it's just a straight drop down, my legs accidentally uncrossed, and that's when I found out they make you do that so you don't get pool water all up in your vagina. No recording devices, cell phones even in your pocket on roller coaster. I used to work at Busch Gardens and guests would get so pee that we would ask them about phones in pockets and kick them off the ride if they didn't put their phone in the cubbies. But it's because when a phone camera that you're holding to record your epic ride gets dropped or falls out of your pocket, it has a high possibility of hitting someone, and guests have gotten seriously injured from it, and could even die. Plus as an employee it's a huge safety violation, and if I let you take it once I see it, I could get fired. The mattress tag, that which everyone thinks says do not remove under penalty of law. It actually says do not remove before consumer under penalty of law or words to that effect. At one time recycle mattresses were a thing. Companies would take old mattresses, remove the ticking and uppermost layer of batting, recover it and sell it. Unscrupulous companies would sell them as new, and the practice helped the spread of bedbugs. At first, new mattresses were to have a white tag and recycled mattresses had a yellow tag. Eventually recycled mattresses were banned and most thrift charity stores won't take them, leaving only private sales as the only way to obtain a used, but not recycled, mattress. Back when I used to work in the show's attractions department at a theme park, strollers were not allowed in any of the show stadiums and certain exhibits. People would absolutely flip their crap over this. People would see the dozens, sometimes hundreds on a busy day of strollers parked all along the pathways and still try to come in with theirs. Whenever we would stop them and politely ask them to park it, they would become irate. We were constantly shouted at, spit on, and physically threatened because of this more times than we could count. I can partially understand their initial frustration. It is a theme park geared towards families, so why are strollers forbidden from the shows? Because of fire code. See all those dozens and dozens of strollers on the pathway? Imagine all of those crammed into an already packed stadium. Now imagine some kind of emergency happening and everybody scrambling to leave all at once. People running up and down stairs and the crowd bottlenecking at all the exits. All those strollers would slow everything down and create a hazard. Also, ugh, fine. Can I at least take it to the disabled seating? No, you absolutely cannot. Our stadiums have very limited spots for wheelchairs. I don't care if nobody is sitting there now, but what if someone in a wheelchair would like to see the show but shows up 5 minutes later and can't because you're entitled, able-bodied but took up a spot with their stroller? But my baby has been awake all day and she is finally asleep. So you think the best thing to do would take it to a show with obnoxiously loud music and sound effects? Working there really made me hate strollers. Years ago, I was in the IT department and the company had a rule that all the members of the IT department were not allowed to ride together in one vehicle to external events. It meant the 4 of us had to take 2 vehicles to go out for lunch, but it made it less likely the whole department would die in a car crash. I have seen other companies with rules stating all the executives couldn't be on the same flight. In some rock climbing places you can't wear your shoes in the bathroom. It's because you're going to be putting your feet where other people put their hands. And if you wear your shoes into the bathroom, that's kind of gross. Standing in other people's pee with my bare feet is also gross. It's illegal to put an ice cream cone in your back pocket in Kentucky because people used to lure horses away with the ice cream so they could pretend to be innocent if caught. No dogs on trails. If you're at a park or trail with a no dogs sign, please obey it. It's because dogs are scent animals. No matter what they do, they leave a scent for days. Sensitive wildlife will not come around if they smell a predator dog. Some will even abandon the area permanently. If you see no dog signs, there is likely sensitive endangered wildlife in the area. They must use that area as a home. So please respect the signs. They're there for a reason. Till I thought it was because people were buttholes and didn't pick up after their dogs, and who wants to step in dog shit while hiking. Don't talk about the meeting with your business partners until you are out of the building. You have no idea who is listening in that conference room, or bathroom, or hallway, or whatever. Adjusts be webcam. What meeting? Haven't seen this here yet, so I'll mention it in case someone else never knew this. I always used to wonder why they make you put your window shade up on planes in preparation for landing. I always wondered if it just made the cabin crew's cleanup job easier, or something. Then I learned from my boss, whose sister works for an airline, that it's so that emergency crews can see into the cabin from the outside in the event of a crash. Which makes total sense and actually reassured me about the whole thing. Also lets you look out for flames, smoke, or any other hazard that may impede evacuation. If a court sentences you to death, you're not allowed to have your organs donated after you're executed. But you're allowed to have them donated if you die in prison before your execution, as a result of suicide or natural causes. This might seem like a stupid and arbitrary case of bureaucracy, but if the state was allowed to harvest your organs after having you executed, then it would make them unfairly biased in your sentencing, since they'll be able to profit from your death. Now, if only the same logic applied to prison labor. One of my first jobs was working in a supermarket. We were trained that if anyone young looking wanted to buy alcohol, we had to aid them. Fair enough. But suppose that same person comes back on another day, and you recognize them from last time and remember that they're of legal age. Doesn't matter. Still need to ask for it. Every time. Why? Because if another customer sees a young looking person get served alcohol, without even being asked for it, they might report it to the police. The police will then shut the store down for the day while they review all the CCTV footage and interview everyone on the staff. By the time they establish that the customer was not underage, the store will have lost at least a day's takings and gained a reputation as a place that sells booze to kids. Not to mention that you'll have been fired by this point. The Monopoly rules. If you play by the actual rules, no money in free parking for example, the game goes way faster because you're not bombarding the game with a random unnecessary influx of $$$ all the time. Also, if someone lands on an unowned property and doesn't want to buy it, it is supposed to go up for auction to the other players. We never did that when we were kids. Using turn signals even if there are no other cars around. If everyone was always aware of every car that was around them or who may need to know where you're turning, like someone making a perpendicular turn ahead that would appreciate knowing you're not driving forwards, then we wouldn't need turn signals at all. Even if you don't think anyone is around, that scooter in your blind spot would probably appreciate a heads up. More importantly, it keeps you in the habit of doing it. I used to work in a fairly dangerous factory built in the 1950s. It's still operational today. I was around a lot of insanely long belts and rollers, moving maybe 120 revolutions per minute. Belt was at least 180 yards long, but the only bit of advice I got on my first day was, don't put your finger where you wouldn't put your dong. My first thought was, is that it? Surely I will have some sort of safety training or at least shown where was dangerous and what not to do, but nope. Still have all my finger toes limbs etc though. Had a guy come in to do a paint demo at the store I was working at, and he was telling us about a corporate rule that states they could not carry any paint in the back of the car. One of their employees had a 5-gallon paint bucket in the rear seat and was in an accident. The bucket took his head off. The bucket took his head off. That is not the way I expected that sentence to end. Every single time you see a warning label that is absolutely ludicrous, you know the reason why it's there is because someone in the past actually did that thing. They put the label there not because they give a crap about people who are stupid enough to do that thing. It's because they want to avoid another lawsuit. This is why so many medications have lists of ridiculous side effects about 14 miles long. They are legally obliged to include every observed side effect, even if it was seen literally once in a single case from 8 years earlier. My teacher had a rule of absolutely no sleeping in his class. He was a pretty reasonable guy, so I found it odd that he was so strict on this. He comes to tell us that one time a student looked like they were sleeping on their desk, but they had actually passed out from giving blood and had to go to the hospital. Had he let her sleep all the way through the class, she may have had some severe damage done. I just check on them to see if they're okay. You've just given me a new fear. In Canada, you can sell prostitution but not buy it. Sounds weird at first until you realize it protects the prostitutes from abuse while keeping it illegal. Sperm banks will not take sperm from a man who didn't graduate college. I used to think it was so asinine to seemingly say only smart people make smart babies. But it dawned on me one day that it may actually be tough to market sperm from a guy with less ideal attributes. You probably wouldn't get a woman to accept a sperm deposit from a guy named Jack who never went to college, but did get Employee of the Month at Starbucks twice in the same year. I work at a mill, and we have a no guns on site policy. That includes in your vehicle. So all the guys that go hunting, which is most of them, can't just have their rifles in their trucks and head out to hunt immediately after work. I always thought it was pretty stupid if the gun's in the car. It's clearly not in the mill shooting people, after all. Then someone explained the reasoning once during an annual training class. If your boss fires you and you're pee, a walk to your car is a lot shorter than the drive home. If the gun's there, maybe you do something stupid. If the gun's at home, many people live over half an hour away from the mill. The drive home will probably be enough to give you time to cool off and realize what a bad idea it would be to drive back with your gun and shoot your former boss. In Moscow, you can get fined for having a dirty car. Though aesthetics are obviously a reason for having this law, it's mainly to do with helping the police identify vehicles. It's illegal to throw away a refrigerator with the door still attached. Psychos would put cats and dogs in there and they'd suffocate. If I remember correctly, the first script of Back to the Future was using a refrigerator instead of a DeLorean. They changed it because of this. Current face mask penalty in the NFL. It used to be that if the grab of the face mask was determined to be unintentional, it was a 5-yard penalty, and it was intentional, it would be 15 yards. Now it's a 15-yard penalty regardless of intent. Sounds dumb to punish someone the same for doing something accidental, but it makes it so that players are much more aware of how close to the face mask they are. If you grab that thing and turn, that can be really dangerous. First play of the first game I ever played in, I sacked the QB as he rolled out and got my finger in the corner of his face mask. I pulled it out quickly, breaking it in the process. I tried to look casual about it. The ref didn't see it, but I glanced over at the sidelines and my coach was staring at me with rage in his eyes. I got 2 more plays and then sat out the next 3 games. I hear many complaints from motorcyclists about helmet laws, but the reality of the helmet law is that it helps curb motorcycle theft. When one is not wearing a helmet, they are likely to be pulled over. If they're pulled over on a stolen motorcycle, they're busted. Most people won't carry around a helmet as they look for a motorcycle to steal. When motorcycle helmet laws were first enacted, maybe enforced, in the 70s, my counterculture uncle rebelled. He glued black shag carpet to the outside of his helmet. Apparently, it got the result he was looking for, but he could only do it in town. The drag of shag carpet at highway speeds is pretty intense. If 2 members of the same family work in merchant navy, they are strictly not permitted to serve in the same ship. The reason for this being that in an event of a catastrophe or a shipwreck, the family shouldn't end up losing on 2 earning members, which actually makes a lot of sense. All the rules at a casino, both employee and player rules, it's mostly to prevent cheating, and everything done is because it prevents a form of cheating that has happened. Examples and explanations: 1 hand on the cards, subbing in another card or marking 1. Dealer can't turn away from game to watch the tray. All bets and cards dice. Both dice must hit back wall to prevent sliding the dice, as well as the tiny amount of dice control that's realistic. Note, we prefer them to both hit, but really any reasonable attempt is sufficient. etc. Since no one's posting half the rules at my job, an example is labeling footage that comes in 180,528 year month day. It sounds stupid, and a lot of people think whatever, it's just the date. They know the shoot day, but when I have footage come in on 171,203 and the next batch comes in 180,103, they will be numeric. But if you go 120,317 and then 010318, the 010318 will go to the top and make everything out of order. I mainly just wanted to complain about it. Many chess tournaments are segregated by gender. On the surface you'd think that there shouldn't be a difference between men's and women's ability to play chess, and you'd be right. The thing is, though, in mixed chess tournaments women are very much underrepresented. If you were to hold two gendered events, however, you'd get a much higher number of women in attendance. Sort of. There's open tournaments and women's tournaments, no men's tournaments. All religious food laws created before refrigeration. Most of them still make sense. Refrigeration doesn't stop the steak dripping blood onto the raw vegetables on the shelf below it. If you put a raw steak in the fridge without it being on a plate, or something else to stop the blood going everywhere, you probably deserve to get mad cow's disease. Don't work on the Sabbath. I mean this in a more serious sense of not just refraining from what you do for a job, but don't do any of the annoying crap of day-to-day life. It seems onerous and outdated on the surface, but I think there is a lot of wisdom to it. If you're not accustomed to it, I find that it's surprisingly difficult to have one day just reserved to relax and enjoy life, free of bothersome responsibilities. This means don't pay bills, don't do housework, don't buy groceries, don't run little errands you just need to get done. It actually takes some forethought and planning to make sure you don't let the little annoying things just pile up for weekend work. But it is amazingly rewarding to feel like you just don't need to do anything for one day. I think it's actually a very smart rule. If you don't stop to really enjoy and experience your life, you just end up living day to day, week to week, with the exception of vacations. So, before you know it, life is passing you by and you wonder where the time went. This way you get a little vacation every single week. I don't work, I don't drive a car, I don't freaking ride in a car, I don't handle money, I don't turn on the oven, and I sure as crap don't freaking roll. Once I was at a theme park and an employee said to me, "Don't lick the mirrors. They smell like lemons but don't taste of them." I wanna hear the story of that. No cut-off denim shorts or t-shirts in the swimming pool. I used to think this was the stupidest rule there was back when I was young. Who are they to dictate your fashion choices while swimming? Some people are self-conscious. Leave them alone. Then I got a job doing pool maintenance. Cotton sucks up chlorine like you wouldn't believe. Every morning I had to test chlorine levels with chemical mixtures. And every single morning, the day after idiots ignore the clothing rules, the chlorine had bottomed out. The point of the chlorine is to kill microbes that can make you sick. Basically, if you don't want diseases in the swimming pool water, follow that rule. I used to be a flight attendant, so many rules seem stupid but make sense in certain situations. For example, people are always they have to put their phone, computer etc away for takeoff and landing, but the fact is those are the most dangerous parts of the flight. I personally discovered why they want them stored when on takeoff. One day we hit some weird weather that caused extreme turbulence. Anything that wasn't stored went flying. Shoes, phones, books, computers, etc. So not only did people's property get fricked up, but it hit other people and caused injuries. It was insane and completely unexpected by flight crew. Just put your crap away. Flying is dangerous and it's amazing we managed to complete millions of flights a year with so few injuries, deaths. Also, as a flight attendant, not only could I be fired but I could be fined tens of thousands of dollars personally if I let you ignore the rules. So just don't. No hard candy at school. I had a second grade student who choked on a heart-shaped hard candy in class. It lodged in his airway. After he got up trying to eat it, I did the Heimlich maneuver and dislodged it a bit. With each thrust he spurted out a stream of blood because the candy cut his airway. Had the most responsible student run for help, got him a rolling chair and pushed him to the nurse's office. She was not there. Thankfully the school secretary showed up and she called 911. Thankfully the local ambulance service was in town, having just come back from the closest hospital, which is 50 miles away. Thankful the candy softened enough on the ride to the hospital, enough that the boy survived. Called his guardian that evening and she was so appreciative that he had not choked on the candy on his bus ride home, or our home alone. So, no hard candy in my classroom ever. I choked on a lifesaver in 1st grade, and my mom was real mad that my teacher gave me hard candy. Don't open an umbrella in the house. Yes, it is bad luck when you poke someone's eye out or knock over a lamp. Don't walk under a ladder. Yes, it is bad luck when someone I know who might be me knocks it and gets pounded with a falling hammer, resulting in closing the store for a trip to the ER for stitches. Corollary: don't leave tools unattended on the top of a ladder. I joked about walking under a ladder being bad luck yesterday, then I banged my head on it. It's a good rule. Having suicide be illegal. I remember seeing this discussion in another thread, and the reason why is not because they want to throw you in jail. It's because by making it illegal it gives the state the authority to actively try and save your life. At the concert venue I used to work at, every single customer was dead every single time they bought alcohol. Seems a bit much when the same guy comes up to you 5 times, but watching someone take their ID out of their wallet can tell you how drunk they are. Plus certain IDs have things that can tell you when people have lost their license for DUI. Driver window and front passenger window shouldn't be tinted too dark. Illegal to tint at all in some states. Makes perfect sense so I can see what the other driver is doing and know whether to avoid him/her. I've seen other drivers text, eat, do makeup, open a freaking Amazon package while driving. I realize that there's the underlying problem of texting or being distracted while driving too, and I know the frick away from them. One time, I almost got hit by a BMW because he was texting and I could barely see inside his fricking limo tint or however dark it was. Thankfully the other lane was opened up, because if I slammed on my brakes, the car behind me would have rear-ended me. Also, tailgating sucks. Highly unpopular opinion, but front passenger and driver window should never, ever be allowed to go darker than 50%. I think a lot of it has to do with cops being able to see what you're doing and during traffic stops for officer safety. The whole "you're allowed to turn right at a red stoplight if the way is clear" thing used to seem very stupid to me, because why would you let people drive when there's a red light? Municipalities are testing it a lot more here now, and it's been really good at preventing traffic jams. Maximum height laws for trucks etc. Bumpers and crash structures are light years beyond where they were even just 30 years ago, and save more lives than ever before. But if said crash structures don't hit one another, say, because the ones on a jacked up pickup truck are so high in the air it'd be safer to T-bone a moose, they can't do their jobs. The first time you drive past an accident scene where somebody got decapitated by the side of a truck, you kinda have an "oh, that's why they have that stupid rule" moment. Oh. I thought it was overpasses, mostly. Now my brain has images it can't unsee. Used to work in a recording studio. Reset the mixing desk to 0 after every use. This was in big, bold, red, unmistakably obvious lettering behind the desk. Why? Because when the next guy comes in to use it after you, he doesn't have to spend 5-10 minutes zeroing all the dials. Doesn't sound like much of an inconvenience, but when you have session musicians waiting to record and you can't start immediately because you're having to reset the desk and hardware, it can cost you more if the session runs over. Also, if you do start recording on a non-zero desk, chances are you can miss a dial turned up way too high and damage someone's hearing, temporarily or permanently, which is just the absolute worst thing you can do in a recording studio. Working in a casino, dust your hands off before and after you touch chips, money, cards, or you need to fix your hair, glasses or clothing. Annoying, but gotta show the cameras that you don't have anything in your hand that could be hidden or stolen. It's become so ingrained in me that I do it at the grocery store, in dance class, when I'm shopping. I look a little crazy, but I'm just showing clean hands. 1. Don't pick up the phone. You know he's only calling cause he's drunk and alone. 2. Don't let him in. You'll have to kick him out again. 3. Don't be his friend. You know you're gonna wake up in his bed in the morning, and if you're under him, you ain't getting over him. Head bobbing intensifies. Religious dietary restrictions. Many religious dietary restrictions likely stemmed from cultural norms that actually increases your chances of survival. Because pigs both compete with human food sources and carry many diseases, it was better not to have them around, and forbid eating pork. Warm water shellfish carry many diseases, including cholera, so it was wise to avoid these as well. Looking into Hinduism, a single cow could sustain a family much longer by producing milk than by providing a one-time beef dinner. Many other religious customs stem from better health practices too. Circumcision, washing hands, face, feet, etc. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.